Hey guys, it's the Man in Black here. Going to talk about 6 months of Green Lantern Corps. So, Green Lantern Corps was the more space opera of the Green Lantern series. Let's see how it's going. This, of course, is beginning of issue 6. We're going to talk about the other 5 issues as we go through here. It's going to be a little bit more akin to a regular 52 weeks episode. Now, in the last issue, Guy Gardner was responsible for rounding up a group of people who are based off of what Guy Gardner would be, except for aliens, as well as some former Sinestro Corps members who they're going to use as a bomb. Now, I'm not entirely certain how they're supposed to be used as a bomb unless we already knew who they were, but as far as I know, we didn't. But apparently their simply being there is enough to fulfill their Sinestro Corps oath. Here we've also got Hanu, Isamat Vol, Brick. Her first name seems to be Sheriff, but she's referred to by her surname. And that's about it for this panel here, all of which were introduced in the second issue of Green Lantern Corps, and all of which were from the previous series. Now, of course, we're missing the second star of this series, which of course would be John Stewart, who has been a prisoner of war since issue 3 or 4. Okay, they screwed up here because if you look at it, I'm not sure how closely you can see. In the past, they would show everybody's face and name here. Instead, they're not giving us the chance to zoom in on that. I don't know if there were too many panels in this issue or if that was simply a mistake. So as we can see, there's Hanu. Lee is one of the old school guys that Guy picked up. There's Brick. Bronchuk, another one of the I almost say new recruits, but you know who I mean. Flint, another one of them. And Sheriff Marin. Here we cut to the guys who were... We see the guys who are being tortured. Now, this is a massive, massive flaw on behalf of the Keepers, who are the enemies of this story arc. And here's where I really need to discuss something outside of the 6 months territory, and that is, if you're facing a group of individuals with extraordinary willpower and trying to break it, torturing them for hours on end in a large group is not what's going to happen. I could bring you to several examples. In Firefly, where simply having a person to talk to helped somebody who otherwise would have been broken withstand torture for hours. I could bring you to Star by Star, a Star Wars novel by Troy Denning, where they really show how to break someone with incredible willpower by picking the person that the group feels the most sympathy for, who is most likely to be broken, continuously beat the shit out of them until the stronger members realize, I need to break before this person dies. Those are ways to break this sort of group's willpower, which makes it even more stupid when Red Shirt Green Lantern decides to give up and tell his information. By the way, these are the Keepers, a very Death's Head design. Obviously bad guys. They were introduced, well, they've been the main antagonists of this arc, and they through tending to the Green Lantern power batteries, have gained the ability to use their own willpower as though it were a Green Lantern ring. I'd also like to talk about John Stewart a little bit. Now, John Stewart was introduced to this, well, my introduction to John Stewart in the comics was as Hal Jordan's partner in the previous volume of Green Lantern. Now, Jeff Johns apparently did not know much to do with this character, and honestly, neither did I. And while he has his strengths as a character, former Marine, architect, he's mainly been around for the occasional guilt trip or for when Hal really, really needs backup. Now, most of the time when Hal needs backup, John has been completely forgotten about. But when Hal really needs backup, John is there, kind of as a plot device. But basically, Jeff Johns really didn't know what to do with him, and honestly, neither really did I prior to this arc. Now, if you all recall, the 6 months of Green Lantern by Sophie from Red Suitcase Adventures, she talked a little bit about how John Stewart was the Green Lantern that stood out to her, and that's a whole new audience that I never really even considered was the Justice League audience, and I had never really watched much of the Justice League show, and when I did, I was mainly focusing on Martian Manhunter or Batman. Martian Manhunter is someone who was really introduced to me through the Justice League show, kind of the way that Green Lantern was to other people. And I can see how you could have formed a bond with John Stewart as Green Lantern through that show. It's just never something that... What's my computer would stop making noises. It's never been something that occurred to me and was never really an incarnation of the character that I was strongly attached to. Now, even those who are big fans of Stewart, well, this is something you see time and time again where someone is forced to cold-bloodedly kill someone to save hundreds of others, and John makes this decision without hesitation. What bothers me isn't the fact that John made this decision, it was the fact that the writers put him in that position to the point where a Green Lantern should not have been able to break that way. And John kept up what he needed to do, but why was this guy in this way in the first place? Now, for a bit of perspective, these guys have been torturing them in order to get some information out of the Lantern's rings. And, of course, by killing the man instead of letting him break, his ring flies off. That's why they're actually concerned about that fact. Now, John manages at this point to use residual energy from the torture device to charge his ring or some such. I don't understand why I couldn't have done this 10 minutes earlier, but I guess it was a plot point. And he manages to escape with another lantern just in time for the cavalry to arrive. Basically what's going on up to this point is that the Guardians invaded this planet. Well, not invaded so much as they stole all the water from it and left some Green Lanterns that they had murdered there as a symbol. Green Lanterns had put together a team to figure out who was killing these Green Lanterns. They then started to follow their energy signal to battle them on another world where they continue to steal natural resources. By this point, we're aware that they had been in charge of holding the power batteries for the Green Lanterns, which had therefore caused their generally infertile world to develop its resources. They were able to live on it. Now, because the Keepers, I believe, I'm not sure which issue, if this is this issue or the previous one, but because the Keepers had been using their own people to the light, basically draining the life from their own people in order to keep the ruling body in power, the Guardians pulled the batteries from them. Therefore, they lost that responsibility and they lost all of the immeasurable benefits in it, which is what led to this conflict. And the Green Lanterns have come to fight them. John and several other GLs were taken prisoner by somebody overreaching in their attempt to save them. Guy and other members of the group were saved while John and others were left behind, and this is the return mission, the group returning to save them. There's been a lot of action here, so there's only so much commentary I can really give. Hanu has been using his ring throughout this series. Eventually he realized, you know, every GL was outnumbered about several thousand to one, so, you know, it wouldn't be dishonorable, none of that bullshit. As you can see, lots of fighting. Action's not bad, art's not bad. Same throughout the entire series. I wouldn't complain about the art. Generally, I wouldn't complain about this. This has probably been the least disappointing series. It just definitely has lived up to what it promised. I never expected it to be more than a long, action-y thing, and that's pretty much exactly what it's been. Here's where we get a little wonky, which is where they take the Sinestro Corps members who they could have just dropped off, but apparently they are literally blowing them up. And I don't know what difference that's supposed to make other than killing these two guys. Or why it is so effective, because it literally reduces these extraordinarily high willpower beings into, well, you can see right there. I've soiled myself. Really? It reduces them to scared children. And I can kind of, that was obviously the plan. The plan worked the way it should have, but why to that extent? Just, I'm asking why, and I don't know if I missed an explanation earlier. By the way, these guys, I wish I could remember if they had a name, but this group is, they're pretty cool. I mean, I like the way that they've, you know, they're more informal. Like I said, they're more like Guy would have been if he had kept on the path he was originally going instead of becoming more of a good guy hero type. I mean, he kept on as a pure anti-hero. You know, I like the design of these guys, even if they are kind of a rip-off there. Here we have something that brings us back to the second issue. Before they had even known who was doing it, they had been discussing the idea that the punishment for whoever had killed all these people would be to bury them, because they destroyed an entire underwater race by taking the water from their planet. And that's them, and there's your poetic justice. And this was a very solid wrap-up to the story arc. Don't have much more to say about that. All in all, if you liked the previous volume of Green Lantern Corps, you'll like this one. It's the same, except instead of Kyle, who was on again, off again, sometimes going off to do Ion, sometimes just being his own little thing, sometimes just doing whatever Guy said, Guy was definitely the stronger personality. Guy is still the louder personality, but John really had some shining moments in this arc. With his history as a Marine, you know, he's very much the straight man. A very good foil to Guy. And I like it. So if you're interested in, you know, the Green Lantern Corps group, you know, Peter Tomasi, Guy Gardner, John Stewart, Isamat Vol, I think you'll like this. I kind of hope to see more of the supporting characters from the previous volume, but it's a little early to tell that. So, that was 6 months of Green Lantern Corps. Until next time, Men in Black out.